using at CL. That is the continuous oil chart on futures. That's the chart that we're using to get this data from. So let's have a look at the chart. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to unscrunch this a little bit so we can see it a little bit clearer, especially because we've got these two UFOs nestled together there. So you might not be able to see very well, but that's, I guess, kind of the point. We have a thin red dot here on the auto climate app. Now, it's red, which means we're in a general movement to the downside, a down climate, but it's thin. It's thin for a reason. Thin tells us that we have an unconfirmed climate, so we have less probabilities in our favor. So if we were to get into a trade that followed that particular climate, we have less odds in our favor of that trade going well for us. Again, not to say it won't, just less probability. Now, when we look at UFOs that could turn price, the orders that are waiting to turn price, closest buy UFO is this one here. It's obviously nestled just on top of this one here, so we've got two on top of the other one. 25.87 to 25.36. That would be the closest buy UFO. Closest sell UFO, literally just above price there, 40.37 to 41.63. Okay, so that's the UFOs and the climate in terms of direction. In terms of how far we expect these markets to go, let's have a look. So normally, the propagating figures are telling us here that normally oil would go down for 9 candles. Again, I'm just rounding up that number there. So 9 candles on a daily chart, so 9 days, and we are on day number 3. So we're about a third of the way into the sort of average movement to the downside. So we have probabilities on our side that this climate could continue, but we have less probability because it's an unconfirmed climate. And then again, the UFOs give us an idea of what could happen there. Bear in mind, a buy UFO is quite a bit to the downside. Now, in terms of volatility, in terms of what we expect, in terms of movement, how quick we expect it to move, for oil, we are using OVX.X. That's the chart we use to get this. The current implied volatility for the year is 63.69%. So we would expect oil to move either up or down 63.69% within 1 year. Again, based on the sort of average opinion of professional options traders. That means that in a day, we could expect movement of 1.55 points, either up or down. In a week, we could expect movement either up or down of 3.41 points. And in a month, we could expect movement either up or down of 7.11 points. Again, gives us an idea of how fast we're likely to see those markets move. So moving on to gold, we're looking at GC here. That is the continuous futures contract again for gold. That's where we get these figures from. I'm just going to open it on a different tab here because we've got UFOs a little far back. So I'm just going to readjust it there. Here we go. Okay, so once again, we have our auto climate app on the bottom here. And we have a blue dot this time, and it's thick. So blue dot is the app telling us that we're in a general move to the upside. We have an upwards climate or an upwards trend, and thick tells us that we have a confirmed climate. So again, we have more probability on our side. If we were to get into a trade that followed climate today, it's more probable than if it was an unconfirmed climate. In terms of UFOs, we have this one here, 1668.3 to 1647.0. That's the closest buy UFO. In fact, we can see it's already done what we would expect it to do, which is that when price comes back into it, it hits a big stack of buy orders and moves back up to the upside. Still on the chart though, so still a valid UFO. In terms of red UFOs or sell UFOs, looks like we're on the way up to this one, 1863.6 to 1879.0. That's the closest sell UFO that we would expect if price were to hit it. It would come back down after hitting sell orders. Now again, based on probabilities and statistics, doesn't always happen that way. But again, this is where technology is showing us these orders are likely to be that could turn price. Okay, so we saw we were in a confirmed upwards climate, and that's what we see here on our newsletter. We've got a green arrow to the upside without any cross by it. The little cross, by the way, that we put next to them shows us if it's unconfirmed. If there's no cross there, then it is confirmed. So we have a confirmed upwards climate. What do we expect in terms of how far that might be likely to go? Now, as we said before, it doesn't always go that we fit exactly within the probabilities and statistics. We can see here that gold normally goes up for 6 candles. Again, I'm just rounding that up. 6 candles on a daily chart, so 6 days, and we are on day number 14, candle number 14. So we are more than twice overextended as to what is normal and what is statistical for this market. So again, we have less probabilities here that if we were to get into a trade that followed it, that we have room for it to keep continuing. But we do have a confirmed up climate. So again, just be mindful of those things. Now, in terms of volatility we expect, we get the figures for gold from GVZ.X or GVZ.X. Now, the current implied volatility for gold annually is that we would expect a movement up or down within 1 year of 20.52%, which means a movement up or down within 1 day of 23.1 points. In 1 week, we would expect a movement up or down of 50.8 points. And in 1 month, we would expect a movement up or down of 105.8 points. And again, we know from our climate and from our UFOs in what direction we're likely to see that movement. Okay, last but not least, we're going to look at the euro. So we're using the euro versus the US dollar spot forex here to get the figures. So let's take a look here at our chart. Euro US dollar. Here we are. So just going to pull this down again so that we can see the closest sell UFO. There we go. Okay, so once again might be a little bit hard to see, but that's maybe a good thing. We have a thin dot, a thin red dot. So a red dot tells us that we're moving to the downside. We have a downwards climate, but the thin element of it tells us that it's unconfirmed. So we have less probabilities on our side there. So we can see here, we've actually just come off of, we hit it here and we hit it here by the looks of it, a buy UFO or a green UFO that was at 1.1168 to 1.1070. I'm just rounding there to the pips they need to be rounded to. Again, still on the chart, so still a valid UFO, and we've already seen it work and do what it should be doing and push price back up. In terms of closest sell UFO or red UFO, obviously quite a way to the upside there, 1.1740 to 1.1816. Once again, just rounded that there. So it'll be interesting to see now that we've hit this a couple of times and we're in an unconfirmed climate, whether or not it does change the climate entirely, or whether or not the climate, the existing climate sort of wins that fight right now. So in terms of how long we would expect the climate to continue, which also obviously helps with our decision making here, we can see that normally the euro against the US dollar would go down for 3.74 candles, so 4 candles on a daily chart, so 4 days, and we are on candle number 3. So again, coming to the end of what is usual, what is statistical, what is average for the euro US dollar in terms of the movement in this particular direction. We have an unconfirmed climate and we've just hit a buy UFO as well. So again, be interesting to see how that plays out over the coming days and what happens this week on that one. Now, in terms of volatility, what we would expect, we are using EVZ.X or EVZ.X. That's where we get these numbers. In a year, we would expect the euro to move 7.61% either up or down within a year, which means 54 pips either up or down in 1 day, 119 pips either up or down in 1 week, and 248 pips in 1 month in terms of the movement on the euro. So again, the volatility gives us an idea of how fast and how far these markets are likely to move within given time periods. The climate gives us an idea of in which direction. Propagating gives us an idea of for how long in what direction, and the UFOs give us an idea of where price might be likely to turn. So again, all based on probability, statistics, and technology to put odds in our favor, to understand how we then execute that with our own trade plans and fit it to us as we see fit. So a couple more things to go over before we wrap up. So upcoming news that could affect us this week. We're obviously going to come back and look at this every day, but we like to give you a sort of a weekly view here. So we can see that the high impact news starts tomorrow, starts on Tuesday. So nothing today in terms of high impact news on US markets. But I just need to make a point here. I got these figures from fxstreet.com/economic-calendar. I have filtered by US markets and I've filtered by high impact news or reports. So if you trade markets that are outside of the US, or you want to have a look at lower impact news that could have an effect on things, you can go to that link and you can play about with the filters to make it fit your trade plan a bit better. You will see normally the way these work is on the left hand side, you'll see the time of day that it's going to come out. So we can see here, obviously for Tuesday, we don't actually know what time, or FX Street doesn't know what time these figures are likely to be announced or they're likely to come out. When they do come out, let's just get rid of those things so I can clear it up a little bit. It will be under this column. So if the column, the actual column is blank, is empty, then it means we don't have the figures yet. If it's filled in, it means we do have figures. And you can always click on these speech or report buttons, again, once you're on that website, to see it in more depth if that's something you want to do. Now, bear in mind that news and events that happen are indirect forces on the markets. The orders themselves are the direct forces on the markets. So bear that in mind with the way that you do your trade plan, and look at it and put as much gravity to it as you choose to. So a couple more reminders before we wrap up. So we have the link to the channel. If you're not already subscribed to us at the Tradictive channel, you can get us at www.tradictive.com/youcantrade. That's where we do our sessions every day: futures, options, stocks, investing, sharpening, psychology sessions, email support and things like that. If you're not sure and you just want to try us out and just see if it suits you first, then there's a free 14-day access to the channel. So you can try us out for a couple of weeks first before you see whether or not you want to do it continuously. Then in terms of courses, and this is for sort of the foundations upwards to make sure we really understand these markets so that when we're in those sessions, it makes a bit more sense. The next one we have is the futures class, and that is www.tradictive.com/futures live if you want to understand a bit more about it. Again, just an introductory offer there. You register for any course, you can choose an additional course of equal or lesser value for free. So it's kind of like a buy one, get one free, but you can go to the website and sort of play about with how you can package it in the right way that makes the most sense for you in terms of what you need, and then obviously how you can get the best discount there. So if you have questions on anything, as always, email us, support@tradictive.com. We will have futures and options today, futures at 9 a.m. Eastern, options at 1 p.m. Eastern, and then at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, my colleague Boyan will be doing the aftermarket review. So to see what went as expected, what maybe didn't go as expected, what happened in the markets today. So we kind of look at it from all angles, before, during, and after the main movements that happen in these markets. So good luck today, guys. Hope you have a good one. We'll see you obviously every day we do these sessions. So we'll see you next time. Hopefully we'll see you in the sessions today as well. Take care, have a good one, and see you soon.